Part 1. The Night That Changed Me. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to sit down and confess my life to strangers. But sometimes, the weight of what you've lived through becomes too heavy to carry in silence. Maybe telling it all will set me free, or at least stop the memories from haunting me every night. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what I've done, what I've lost, and how one reckless decision can turn an ordinary life into something unrecognizable. I grew up in a normal family. Not rich, not poor. My father worked long hours. My mother stayed at home. And I was the quiet middle child. For years, I thought my life would follow a straight, safe line. College, marriage, a stable job, kids. The typical dream, but the night I turned 24, everything shifted. I was engaged back then to a man named Daniel. He was the kind of guy mothers adored, stable, polite, career-focused. We'd been together for almost 4 years, and everyone assumed we were perfect for each other. But deep down, I knew something was missing: passion, fire, that pulse-racing thrill that makes you feel alive. Daniel was comfort, but he wasn't chaos. And maybe I secretly craved chaos. That birthday night, my friends insisted we go out to celebrate. One last wild night before you settle down, they joked. I told myself I'd just have a few drinks, maybe dance a little, then go home. But fate had other plans. The bar was crowded, music thumping so loud that I could feel it in my bones. That's when I saw him and Drian. He wasn't supposed to matter. He wasn't supposed to look at me the way he did, like I was the only person in the room. Tall, dark, dangerous. The kind of man you feel before he even speaks. And when he finally did speak, leaning close to my ear to be heard over the music, I felt goosebumps run down my arms. "Happy birthday," he said. Just 2 words, but the way he said them, like a promise, like a dare, lit something inside me. I should have walked away. I should have remembered Daniel, my safe life, my predictable future. But instead, I let Adrian buy me a drink. Then another. Hours passed like minutes, and by the time I realized how close we were standing, it was already too late. He wasn't the kind of man who asked permission. He took up space, and I let him. When his hand brushed mine, I didn't pull away. When his lips found mine in the corner of that smoky bar, I didn't resist. And when he whispered, "Come with me," I followed. That night was reckless. It was wild. It was everything Daniel never was. The world outside didn't exist, just Adrian and me, tangled in sheets that smelled of sin and regret. I remember his hands, rough but deliberate. His voice low and demanding. For the first time in years, I felt alive. But morning always comes, doesn't it? I woke up in a stranger's apartment, my engagement ring still on my finger. Reality hit me like a slap. I had betrayed Daniel, betrayed myself. I wanted to run, to erase it all. But Adrian wasn't the kind of man you walked away from easily. He leaned against the doorframe, shirtless, smirking like he knew a secret. "You'll come back," he said simply. And God help me, he was right. I told myself it was just a mistake, just one night of weakness. But the truth? That night unlocked something in me, a hunger I didn't know I had. Daniel's kisses felt bland after Adrian's. Daniel's plans for our future felt like chains. And no matter how much I hated myself, I kept thinking about Adrian, his touch, his voice, his dangerous smile. Days turned into weeks, and before long, I was living 2 lives. In the daylight, I was Daniel's fiancé, planning a wedding, smiling at family dinners. But at night, I was Adrian's, stolen moments in hotels, lies about late work, bruises on my skin that I couldn't explain. I kept telling myself I could stop any time, that I was still in control. But Adrian had a way of pulling me deeper. He made me feel seen, desired, consumed. With him, I wasn't the good girl anymore. I was wild, unpredictable, shameless. But every lie comes with a cost. And mine was about to come crashing down. One evening, Daniel surprised me with dinner reservations at my favorite restaurant. I should have been happy, but my stomach twisted because Adrian had texted me just an hour earlier. "I need you tonight." I sat across from Daniel. pretending to listen as he talked about mortgages and wedding bands. And all I could think about was Adrian's hands on me, Adrian's voice in my ear. I excused myself to the bathroom just to catch my breath, but when I unlocked my phone, Adrian's message stared back at me. "If you don't come, I'll come find you." My heart stopped. He had never threatened me before, never sounded so possessive. And suddenly I realized I wasn't in control anymore. I was his. Part 2, when the web tightened. That night at dinner with Daniel, I realized my life was no longer mine. It belonged to two men, the one who promised me security, and the one who promised me fire. I was stuck in the middle and the walls were starting to close in. I returned to the table, my smile shaky, my hands trembling. Daniel looked up, concern written all over his face. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I lied. "Just a little headache." He reached across the table, touching my hand gently, the way he always did. Safe, predictable. But in that moment, all I could feel was Adrian's shadow looming over me. His threat echoed in my head. "If you don't come, I'll come find you." Dinner dragged on like a punishment. The food tasted like ash in my mouth. And when Daniel surprised me again by pulling out a velvet box hour wedding band, I felt like I was suffocating. He was so excited, so full of plans, while all I could think about was how quickly I needed to escape and run into Adrian's arms. That's how twisted I had become. By the time dessert arrived, I had made up some excuse about needing to rest early. Daniel kissed my forehead sweetly, drove me home, and wished me good night. The second he left, I grabbed my car keys and drove straight to Adrian's apartment. He was waiting. Course he was. The moment I walked in, he pulled me against him, his mouth on mine, his grip almost bruising. "You made me wait too long," he murmured, his tone sharp, like punishment. And just like that, all the guilt dissolved. The shame, the fear, they vanished under the weight of his touch. With Adrian, I didn't have to be perfect. I didn't have to smile politely or nod along to future plans. I could be raw, selfish, alive. But passion like that always comes with chains. Over the next few weeks, Adrian's messages grew more demanding. He wanted me constantly. If I didn't reply fast enough, he'd flood my phone with calls. If I said I was busy, he'd get angry, accusing me of choosing Daniel over him. "You're mine," he'd told me once, his voice dark. His hand around my throat, not enough to hurt, but enough to remind me of the power he held. Don't forget that. And the scariest part? I liked it, but living two lives isn't sustainable. Lies start to overlap, excuses stop making sense. Daniel began noticing. At first it was small. My distracted glances, my sudden disappearances, my unexplained late nights. He'd ask, "Where were you?" And I'd feed him another lie. Work, traffic, a friend's emergency. But Daniel was smart. Too smart. One night, he looked me dead in the eye and asked, "Are you seeing someone else?" My heart dropped. My throat went dry. I wanted to confess, to scream yes, to beg for forgiveness, but the words never came. Instead, I shook my head. Lied. Again. He didn't look convinced. That's when paranoia started eating me alive. I began checking over my shoulder constantly, terrified that Daniel would follow me, terrified that Adrian would show up somewhere he shouldn't. Every time my phone buzzed, I panicked, afraid one of them would expose me to the other. It was a nightmare of my own making. And then came the night it all began to unravel. Daniel had been working late, or so I thought. I used the opportunity to sneak out and meet Adrian at a hotel downtown. We barely made it through the door before he pushed me against the wall, kissing me like he owned every inch of me. "Tell me you don't love him," Adrian demanded between kisses. "I don't," I whispered, though part of me wasn't sure if it was true. "Good," he said, "because you're mine. Say it." "I'm yours." I didn't know that those two words would be the noose tightening around my neck, because as I lay tangled in Adrian's arms hours later, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "I know where you are." My blood turned to ice. I sat up, heart hammering, staring at the screen as if it might disappear. But the message stayed, burning itself into my soul. Adrian noticed my panic. "What's wrong?" I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. All I could do was shove the phone at him. He read it, and instead of looking shocked, he smirked. "Good," he said. "Now he knows the truth." I stared at him in disbelief. "You don't understand my whole life." "Your whole life is a lie," Adrian interrupted, his tone sharp, merciless. "He was never enough for you. I am. And now you don't have to hide it anymore." But he didn't understand. Daniel wasn't just a man I was betraying. He was my anchor, my family's golden boy, the one everyone loved. Losing him didn't just mean losing a fiancé. It meant losing my reputation, my stability, my future. And just like that, my double life collided. When I got home that night, Daniel was waiting. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just looked at me with eyes so full of disappointment that it shattered something inside me. "How long?" he asked softly. I opened my mouth, but no words came. My silence was answer enough. He shook his head, stood up, and walked out. No dramatic goodbye, no begging me to stay. Just quiet finality. And for the first time in months, Adrian's fire didn't feel like liberation. It felt like a cage. Because I had lost Daniel. And deep down, I wasn't sure Adrian was worth it. Part 3. Losing everything. The night Daniel walked out, I told myself it wasn't real. That he'd cool off, that he'd come back. After all, we'd spent years together. You don't throw that away over one mistake, right? But Daniel didn't come back. The next morning, his things were gone. The closet looked emptier, the bathroom shelves cleared. It was like he'd been erased from my life overnight. And the terrifying part? Nobody else knew yet. My family, our friends, they all thought we were fine. Still heading toward the wedding. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my bare ring finger. The silence in the apartment was deafening. For years, Daniel's presence had been my safety net. Now it was gone, and all I had left was Adrian. And Adrian wasn't the kind of man you built a future with. When I told him what happened, he didn't comfort me. He didn't even look surprised. He just smirked, pulling me close like I was a prize he'd won. "Good," he said. "Now you don't have to pretend anymore." But I wasn't relieved. I was terrified. Because without Daniel, there was nothing to balance the chaos. Adrian was all fire, all hunger, all possession. At first, it had felt intoxicating. Now it felt dangerous. He started showing up unannounced. At my apartment. At my job. He'd wait outside, leaning against his car, his eyes locked on me like a predator stalking prey. My coworkers whispered. My neighbors stared. I laughed it off, said he was just protective, but inside I was crumbling. One night, he let himself into my apartment with a spare key I didn't even know he had taken. I came home to find him sitting on my couch, drinking my wine like he owned the place. "Adrian," I snapped, my voice trembling, "what are you doing here?" "Waiting for you," he said simply. Where else would I be? When I realized I wasn't tea-free. I thought I had chosen Adrian, but really, Adrian had chosen me. And now he wasn't going to let go. The more time I spent with him, the more I noticed the cracks. His temper, his jealousy, the way he hated when I mentioned friends, family, anyone outside of him. He wanted me isolated, dependent, his. And the worst part? Some sick, twisted part of me liked it. Because even though his love felt like a cage, at least it was passion. At least it was real, ... But passion doesn't keep the lights on. Passion doesn't erase the guilt when your mother calls, asking why Daniel hasn't visited. Why you sound so tired lately. I lied to everyone, building more walls of secrets around myself. Then came the breaking point. I was at work late, buried in paperwork, where my phone buzzed. 20 missed calls from Adrian. 30 unread messages. My heart pounded as I opened them. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Who are you with? If you're lying to me, I'll find out. By the time I got to my car, he was already there, parked next to me. His jaw was clenched, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Adrian, I was working," I said, my voice shaking. "Don't lie to me," he snapped. His eyes burned into mine, furious and desperate. You think I don't know when you're lying? You think you can just disappear on me? I'm not disappearing, I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. But I can't live like this. You're suffocating me. The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. Finally, he leaned in close, his voice low, chilling. You belong to me, whether you like it or not. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing I had traded safety for obsession, stability for chaos, love for addiction. Daniel was gone. My family didn't know the truth, and Adrian had become both my escape and my prison. I wanted to believe I could walk away, that I could cut him out, rebuild my life. But every time I thought about leaving, I remembered the way he touched me, the way he looked at me like I was the center of his universe. And I hated myself for it, but I craved it too. That's the thing no one tells you about toxic love. It doesn't just trap you, it rewires you. It convinces you that pain is passion, that jealousy is devotion, that control is love. And I was drowning in it. The final blow came 2 weeks later. I got a call from Daniel's sister, out of the blue. She asked me why Daniel had moved back into his parents' house, why he wouldn't talk about what happened. She sounded hurt, confused. I wanted to tell her everything, to confess my sins, to beg for her forgiveness. But instead, I lied again, said we just grew apart, said it was mutual. When I hung up, I broke down sobbing on the kitchen floor. That's when Adrian found me. He crouched beside me, pulled me into his arms, and whispered, "Don't cry over him. You have me now." And maybe that should have comforted me. But instead, it felt like a death sentence. Because I realized then Daniel had left me. But Adrian never would. Even if I wanted him to. Part 4. The breaking point. By the time a month passed, my life didn't even feel like mine anymore. Adrian had seeped into every corner of it. He had keys to my apartment. He picked me up from work unannounced. He went through my phone when I wasn't looking. And whenever I protested, he'd twist it back on me. "You're mine," he'd remind me. "If you've got nothing to hide, then why are you scared?" The truth was, I was scared. Not of cheating or lying this time, but of him. His obsession wasn't love anymore. It was ownership. But walking away from Adrian wasn't simple. Every time I tried to distance myself, he'd pull me back. He'd show up outside my building, texting me all night, calling until my phone battery died. And when I finally gave in, when I finally opened the door, he'd hold me so tight it hurt. "See?" he'd whisper. "You can't leave me. You don't want to." And the sickest part? Some part of me believed him. But cracks were forming. One night, I went out with a few coworkers after office hours. Just harmless drinks at a quiet bar. I didn't even tell Adrian because I knew he'd make a scene. But halfway through my second glass of wine, my phone buzzed. "Where are you?" "Answer me." "Nell?" My stomach dropped. I hadn't told him anything, and yet he knew. I stepped outside to call him, my voice low, shaky. "Adrian, I'm just with coworkers." "Liar," he hissed. "You think I don't know? I saw you walk into that bar." I froze, turning toward the street. And there he was, across the road, leaning against his car, watching me like a shadow. That was the moment it hit me. He was following me, tracking me. I wasn't just his lover anymore. I was his prisoner. I ended the night early, making excuses to my coworkers, pretending I was fine. But inside, panic was eating me alive. That night at my apartment, I finally snapped ... "Adrian," I said, my voice trembling but firm, "this has to stop. You can't follow me. You can't control me. I'm not your property." He stared at me, silent for a long time. Then he laughed, a low, bitter laugh. "You think you can leave me?" he asked softly. "After everything we've done? After everything I've given you?" "I don't care what you've given me," I shot back, tears filling my eyes. "This isn't love. This is obsession, and I can't breathe anymore." His expression changed then. The smirk vanished. His eyes darkened, colder than I'd ever seen. "Then maybe," he whispered, stepping closer, "you don't need to breathe at all. The words froze my blood. I stumbled back, but he caught my wrist, holding me in place. For the first time since I met him, I saw not passion, not desire, but danger. Real danger. I managed to pull free, locking myself in the bedroom, shaking as his fists pounded on the door. Hours passed before he finally left, but the damage was done. I couldn't keep pretending this was passion. This was a cage, and if I didn't escape, I wasn't sure I'd survive it. The next morning, I packed a small bag, just essentials. My plan was to leave town quietly, stay with a cousin a few hours away. I didn't tell anyone, not even my family, because I didn't want Adrian to find out. But when I opened the front door, ready to run, my heart nearly stopped. Adrian was standing there, smiling. "I knew you'd try this," he said calmly, almost lovingly. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out something small, metallic. A key. But not to my apartment. To Daniel's house. I froze. How did you... He leaned closer, his breath hot against my ear. "Because, sweetheart, Daniel and I know each other better than you think. If you want me to continue this story and reveal the shocking truth about Adrian and Daniel, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And comment part 2.